The recording will come in about a couple hours after the webinar, just so you guys know. So today we're going to talk about Realtors Property Resource. This is an exciting tool that you guys all have access to as long as you're members of NAR, which I think most of you guys are. Part of your dues actually pay for this already. So this is a service that you guys are probably already paying for, and not a lot of you guys know about it. And if you do, you might not understand just how much the Realtors Property Resource can do. So there's a couple of things. We have an hour. I'm going to try to fit as much information as I can in this next hour, but there is a lot of stuff on this site. So I'm going to recommend, I'm going to show you how to use this for buyers and how to use it for sellers. I'm going to give you an overview, but I highly recommend at the end I give you the instructions on how to get logged into RPR. And I recommend logging in and just kind of playing around with it, just because there is so much that even if we were on the phone for 2 hours, I couldn't show you everything. So like I said, I'll do an overview. I'm going to show you what RPR is. I'm going to tell you how it can help. So I'll go a little bit over how you can use this for buyers and sellers. I'm going to show you the reporting tools. I'm going to show you the mobile tools. And then I have a couple of reports that I ran as examples. And then I'm going to give you guys the directions on how to get started with RPR. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, feel free to ask them. There's a question box. I will answer them along the way if it makes sense. Otherwise, I will leave time at the end for questions. And like I said, I will be sending the recording. So don't try to, if you're worried about trying to keep notes and all that stuff, you don't have to worry about it. So we're going to talk about what is RPR, how it can help you. We'll go over the tools and resources, and then again, I'll show you some examples. So RPR is fully owned by NAR, and it's a national database of parcel-centric property information on over 170 million US properties. It is for the exclusive use of Realtor members. There is no additional charge. And the other thing is there's no consumer or public access. So some of this information, you're thinking, well, if I've got a buyer, they can go to Zillow and they can get this information, but this is parcel-centric, which is a little bit different than how other companies work. And because there's no public access, you're going to have access to a lot of this information that you'll be able to get more information than the public could. Also, because we've partnered with RPR, I'll just give you a sneak preview real quick, but the reports are all going to be labeled as Realty Executives. So when you log on, it'll see that you work for Realty Executives. These reports are going to be branded for you. If you just logged in before we had this partnership, you still would have had full access, but they wouldn't have been branded, and you would have had to go back and do that, or just hope they remembered you worked for Realty Executives. But now it's branded with Realty Executives. So that'll make your life a little easier. They have 170 million parcels. They also have 152 million tax records, 148 million mortgages, 194 million deeds, 35 million default records, 1.3 billion photos, and 13 billion valuations. So there's a lot of data in here. Pretty much any parcel, any property, anything you want to get information on is going to be in this database. And they work with most of the MLSs. So 94.5 MLSs. I think there's just a handful that don't work with NAR and RPR, but most of this is going to be covered. And you guys do have access through Realty Executives to all of the other MLSs in the country and North America, but this is also going to give you that access. So this is another thing that's going to work hand in hand with your Realty Executives data, because you can also go through and find this on RPR. I have a couple people telling me they don't have audio. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, it must be just not working for a couple people. Okay, perfect. Okay, let me see if I can fix something real quick. Okay, some people are saying it's coming and going, so hopefully this will work. Let me try it this way. Okay, hopefully that's a little better. So they're working with Most of the MLSs, you guys can use this to look at properties in other states. Because NAR is only North America or only the US, it's only going to be US properties, but you can search outside of your specific MLS. This is something you guys can look at later. RPR features tools and data sets just because there are a ton of them. So you can kind of get an idea. Heat maps, I'm going to go into some of this stuff. Like I'm going to show you the heat maps, the CMA tools. We'll go into the flood maps just because it's pretty easy. If you are selling distressed property, there's a really good tool for that here that you can see all that distressed info here. Bird's eye and aerial image. There's a mobile app, which we'll get into. But you can kind of look through this. There are a ton of things here. I mean, there's just a ton of stuff. The drive time mapping and search I'll show you guys because that's also pretty interesting. And then what they do is instead of giving you guys valuations that are automated valuation models, which is public records information, which can be incomplete, outdated, this is something like where Zillow would use. And you guys have all run into the problem where you get a valuation from Zillow or somebody comes to you and says, well, Zillow says you should be able to sell my house for $1 million. And you know that because there's different houses for sale and they've got a lot of work or whatever it is, that it's not quite right. So they use what's called the realtor valuation model. This is public records as well, but it also pulls MLS data. So it's going to be more consistent, up to date. It's able to see, the latest sold data in that same neighborhood. It's going to be able to pull comps. And then I'm going to show you guys in a couple minutes how you can change the comps because you're pulling a comp based on a public record. Maybe they've added a bedroom or maybe they've done the kitchen and that hasn't been reflected yet. So I'm going to show you guys how you can actually add or delete stuff like maybe they need a new porch, for instance. But the difference is accuracy. There is, let me find that data because it's crazy. Okay, so the AVM, which is something like what Zillow would use, gets the values correct, which means within 10 or 50 or within 10% of the actual sold price, 65% of the time. So it's 65% accurate. The RVM is able to give that that most accurate price 93% of the time. So 93% of the time, the RVM is within 10% of the actual sale price. So this is a lot more accurate than the AVM. Lisa just asked if the property isn't on the MLS, can you pull up an RVM on the property? Yes, because this is parcel and it doesn't have to be on the MLS because it can be a sold, it can be not on the market. It's still going to give you a pretty accurate price. So this is just a little checklist. As agents, you guys have access to the nationwide parcel-centric searching, the market analysis tools, dynamic mapping, the RPR report library, and that mobile app. So all of this stuff, again, is included in your dues already that you're paying. So I put a lot of slides in here because I always wanted to be prepared for in case the internet goes down. Also, I'll send you guys these slides so you can see what it looks like. But I'm going to show you guys a couple slides, and then I'm going to switch over to the actual website and do some of this stuff in here. So these slides, we're not going to go through all of them, but they are here for when I send you guys the slides after the webinar. So you can start by searching the area, and this is exactly what it looks like. You can see ours looks a little different. I did these screenshots before we had the partnership, so now you can see it's already branded. The whole website's branded Realty Executives when you sign in. But you can search, you can start broad, and then it's going to give you everything. So when you put in, if I put in Phoenix, it's going to show me all the properties, the for lease, schools, for sale, neighborhoods, market activity. It's going to give me all this information. And then what I'm able to do is I can actually start narrowing things down. So let's just start with Phoenix. And I'm going to just do a search. And this is going to, again, hold on. Let me reset this. If I have it where it's going to show everything. And this is new listings, pending, price change, expired, distressed, recently sold, all the leases. And then I did narrow this down a little. I just have single family condo and co-op. But this is going to show you everything around Phoenix. And it's a lot, so it's going to load. I'll let that load and I'll go back to my slides. So it's going to be, I did Scottsdale when I did this, 18,000 properties, and you can see these are showing everything. So then what you can do is you can actually go through and you can say, you know what, I'm only interested in the ones that are for sale. So I'm going to look at the ones that are for sale because maybe I'm looking for a specific property. And that's going to take that down a little bit. So maybe I'll just, you guys get it. There's a lot here. If I go back to home, I'm just going to show, I'm just going to go with for sale. In Phoenix. And then you can still filter. So once you get these results here, you're able to say, okay, so maybe I'm not interested in pending, or maybe I want to make sure that I'm only showing short sales. You know, you've got a lot of data here that you can sort through and say, okay, so I want to look for something specific. Normally, you're going to have a price range if you're representing a buyer. You know, you can filter by bedroom. So right here, I've got 6,700 properties. If you're going to go through and say, okay, well, these are all the for sales. And somebody asked, does this include for sale by owner? Yes, this includes everything for sale. So if I'm going to say, okay, well, I don't care about ones that are pending, and I want to make sure that, you know, foreclosure, that's a whole thing. We don't want to go through that process, you know, trying to fight with the bank. So I'm going to just search for these. And then it's going to narrow this down a little. So you can start to get things narrowed down based on things you do or don't want to work with. And then you can go ahead and decide how that looks. So you can see, okay, so I went from 67 to however many it's going to come. And it's taking forever today, but you understand how to do this. The other good thing is you can, how do I make this go away? So here, you've already taken this down by almost half. The other really good thing you can do this, you know, you guys get the filters part, but if you're looking for, maybe you are looking for just distressed ones, you can go back to this homepage and you can search for distressed. You know, you've got a ton of opportunities to kind of look for certain things. And like I said, I included a bunch of these, so you can kind of look through this as you want to. And then there's some keywords. So go through these when you guys get a chance. I don't want to spend the whole hour messing with these filters. Let's hop over to the maps because the maps can be really helpful. If I go to my home, so when you want to start to do things with the map, so the heat maps, you can use the bigger map. And then you can go down here and say, okay, so I want the estimated home values. It's going to show you right here. It's going to do that heat map. So you can do that. Flood zones are another good one, not so much maybe for Phoenix, but there are certain places where people might ask, you know, do I need to be worried about getting insurance? If I buy this house, am I going to have to worry about flood insurance? This is the FEMA flood zone map. So this will help you guys be able to say, okay, so you need to account for this extra cost because you're going to want to have flood insurance. So there's a ton of things you can use with these maps. And the way you get there is if you go back, you can see list view, map view, and then you're able to, you know, pick all these different ones. You can see all the different ones that you can use. Points of interest. So I've included these just so you guys can see it after the webinar. You can go through these slides. I've included some of the heat maps that you can pull up. And then you can also use these map tools to draw a shape. The drive time and distance can be really helpful because you might have someone who's like, well, I have to, be within 10 miles of a certain spot, or I have to be within a 10-minute drive of a hospital. So to draw a shape, you can say, okay, so here I want to be within, you can pick a point of interest, draw your radius map. Or you can say, okay, so I want to just draw a map. And then drive time, you'll just enter the address and you can do it that way. Or distance. So here's what's going to be. So if this is your hospital that you're selling a house to an emergency room doctor, he's got to be within a certain radius of his hospital. You can say, here's the point of interest. Okay, here's what we'll focus on. We'll focus on finding a home within this area. And then geography, same things. If you wanted to do school districts, somebody says, you know what, I want to be within a certain school district. You're able to look at a map, say, okay, so here's the map view, and then here's the houses that fall within your criteria. So again, there's so many things to go over with maps. I recommend coming in here and just kind of playing with it. But the ones I did want to make sure you guys knew are how to draw a shape and then how to use the drive time and distance pins, because those are things that you might have to do. And then school districts, all of these things can be really helpful too. So again, all those slides are included. So using RPR with sellers, you've got a bunch of stuff you can use. We went over the filters a little bit. We're going to get into the mobile app in just a bit, but this is going to help you because when you're setting up to sell someone's home, you're able to give them a pretty good estimate using that RVM and confidence score. So if I go back here and I have a specific address, that one's not for sale, but this right here, this is the current value that they're giving you. This is the confidence, and you can see what this means. This means that there's houses that have sold around there that they've, they feel pretty confident in this one. So you can walk into a seller and say, okay, so according to this, if everything that is in the public records and is correct, then this is what we think we can get your house for. And you can also do this as a range, which might be a little easier, because you might not want to go in and say, I can sell it for exactly this one. Let me just do one more thing. So you've got the confidence score and then the refined value. This is what's going to help you. You can check out those basic facts, check out if it needs home improvements, if they did home improvements, if it needs improvements, and then you can also do market and home conditions. So I'll go through this again. I might just go through the slides because the website's a little slow, but you're going to have your summary. So it's going to give you the RPM or the RVM here and all the facts. Again, you're able to use that map. And then you can see the history. So you'll be able to look at the historical records. And this shows, this is some public records. This is how the neighborhood compares based on, what's sold around there. You can see there's a couple of charts that are available. And this is the refined value. This is where you can start to say, okay, so you guys just told me that you went through and you redid the kitchen a couple years ago. So let's go through and let's say, okay, maybe it's missing the amount of bedrooms. I'm going to add the 5 bedrooms. It's going to apply the changes that's going to add that money in. And then the home improvements, this is also good because RPR has already done the work. So what they've done is there's going to be a drop down of the most used home improvements. So if someone put a deck on, you can see that there's different levels of, so you can say it's a deck, it was a wood, it's a mid-range. There's a ton of different options here, and they've already done the work to go through and estimate about how much value that adds to a home. So instead of having to go do the research of figuring out, okay, well, they added a garage door replacement. I don't have any idea, because you can never say, well, they spent 50 grand on it, so we'll just add 50 grand. That's what the homeowners would like, but that's not how it works in real life. So it's going to say, so they did a minor kitchen remodel. They did it a few years ago. It cost 15. It added about 8. Then, if you know they need to have some improvements done, you can do the same thing. So it's going to say, okay, so they need a new patio. The total cost is going to be about 7 grand. It's going to take about 7 grand off because you're going to have to do that way. Also, home condition. So local market condition, if if it's a hot market, it's a slow market, you're able to just move the slider back and forth. And then it's going to tell you, so the original estimate was this. We added that bedroom. We added that kitchen remodel. We took off the cost that it's going to take to do that porch. Now I feel like we're able to get about 530 for it. So I don't know why this is taking so long to load today, but all of that is available to do that here. This is that comp analysis. The refined value is where you can go through and do all that. So this is where you'd go in and you'd say, okay, so there's 4 bedrooms, there's this home improvement, that kind of thing. That's under this area here. So you've got the summary, the refined value is where you're going to do all this. And the good thing is, if you see right here, it's going to tell you about how much they did. So, or how much they're estimating this on. Thomas asked, does RPR provide the estimate of value? Does it base it off a cost or percentage? I'm not actually sure how it does it. I think what they do is they know if someone spends $5,000 to remodel a kitchen, they usually are able to recoup $3,000 back when they're doing those, when they look at past sales and that kind of thing. So you're able to do that here, and then we'll get into reporting in just a second. We'll go through a little bit of the comp analysis. Again, this is letting you decide if you want to build an estimate based on comps or you want a more detailed. So it's going to tell you the difference, and there's a video attached. It's about a 2-minute video. So I'm just going to do the sales comparison analysis. Well, no, that's going to take too long. But you can confirm the home facts, and this is like, maybe the square footage is different than it says. And maybe for some reason the bedrooms isn't comp. So you have the opportunity to go through and say, okay, so this is not correct. This is not correct. Sorry, I'm trying to use a different house and it won't let me. Okay, hold on one second. One 7,238. we go. Let's say they spent $500. And I think you can do this manually. Just kind of play around with it. I'm just trying to go through this as fast, like not as fast as I can, but I want to show you guys as much as I can before our time is up. And the comp analysis, you can go through each one and say, okay, so I want to do a comparative analysis. I'm going to confirm the facts, confirm. And then I'm going to find some comps. And again, you can say, okay, so this is, I want to just do active for sale and pending. And then you're going to be able to pick those. And then when you're done making the adjustments, you know, rating your comps, you might have a house with a pool. So that's going to be a little bit different comp than the neighbor who doesn't have a pool. You might have a corner lot versus a middle lot. So you're able to then make those adjustments based on what you guys know as a realtor, what's going to change the value of a home. And then you're able to create a report to give to your seller. So I've got a seller's report that I did before. And again, you can see this is Realty Executives branded. It's going to have a picture of the home, and then it's going to have, you know, all of the stuff once you've done the adjustments and once you've compared those comps and you've pulled whatever price you want to pull, it's going to give you that comp analysis, and it's going to give that range. Home facts, extended home facts, photos, and then it's going to start to show here's how your house compares to your zip code, the whole county, and then the whole state. Here's the history. So you guys can go through this. I'll actually send you a copy of this report so you can see it. But there's a ton of data in here, and all you have to do is you do all these real quick, and then you're just going to click create report, and it's going to create that report. And then you can also get neighborhood info. So this is another thing that might help when you're meeting with the seller. Here's the median estimated home value. Here's the change. You know, there's just a lot of data on here for you guys to go in and say, let's work together to see what we could do here. So the reports, there are 8 different templates you can customize, so you can decide what goes in there. It can be downloaded, printed, or emailed, or if you guys have the app, you can actually send them it via text. And then it'll be personalized with your information on it, and it's saved for 30 days. So if for whatever reason you didn't want to download it, you have access to this, and it's really quick. So if I go to reports, it's going to show me my different ones. So there's a property report, seller's report, property flyer, a mini property report, and this is actually what shows up when you use the smartphone app. Valuation workbook. So if I show a sample, you can kind of get an idea of what this looks like. School report. So depending on what your buyer or seller is looking for, you're able to decide which one you want to look at. And all you have to do is more details, and then you can say, okay, so I don't want to include the home facts, or I don't want to include the property info. So you're able to go through and customize each one of these and decide what you want to show to your buyer or seller. And again, it won't look like this. It's going to look like this. It's going to have the Realty Executives info on it. So you guys can actually get a sample of these reports if you text NAR RPR to that 555-888 number. And it's going to go through, and it's just going to send you like a little report so you can see what it looks like. Also, because this is free, when I show you guys how to set this up, just come through and play with it. Just come play and say, here's the ones I want to add. You know, if you don't want to include your comps, don't include your comps. You know, just come through and play with it. Here's where you would fill in your profile, so you get your photo and your information on here. You just have to upload a photo and upload your logo by doing this view profile. We're all using my bosses, so that's why there's no photo, because we're all kind of playing with it, but you can have your information straight on here. And we're working on, if you guys are familiar with the prime agent listing presentation, there's an area right there that you can actually add a comparative market analysis. And we're redoing that, so it's going to look more updated, and you can pull one of these pages from the report, put it straight into that one if you wanted to. So you have a ton of options to either use the one that's already in Realty Executives as the listing presentation, and then add your CMA through this RPR. There's a ton of stuff you can do with that. Patty said, when I have wanted to only have certain areas with like homes, I manipulate the properties to include all looks good, and then the final report has properties I did not choose. I will give you the information to reach out to RPR to see if they can help you exclude certain properties. You can, so someone asked, do you have to enter your own comps, or can RPR generate its own comps? So yeah, you're just kind of telling it what to do a little bit. It's going to generate the comps for you. It's just having you decide a little bit, what you wanted to add, but you don't have to go through and do it all manually. So now we'll get into the app a little bit. They have it available for Apple and they have it available for Android. I just took some screenshots about what it looks like, and this is good. So if you're out driving people around, if you have your location services turned on, it's able to figure out where you are. So if you're looking at one house and the person's like, man, I really like this area, but that house wasn't for me, it just didn't do it for me, but I really like this neighborhood. What else is available? It'll actually show you right now, okay, so within a 1 mile radius, there's all these other houses for sale. And then depending on the color, I think blue might be under contract and dark blue. There's different, I mean, you guys can look at the key, but you're able to pull it up right there and say, okay, so here's some other ones that are for sale. And then you can look, there's two different ways you can look at the map. There's the drive map and then there's the aerial map. And then, okay, so they're like, okay, well, what's the deal with this house? I want to see, because this one's on the corner. You click that, you're able to see all the photos, get all the property information. You can see the location here. And then also homeowners association info, estimated home value, all the same stuff you can see if you're looking online, but it's on your phone. So you're able to pull all that information right then and there. And that way you're not like, well, let me get back to you, because you know what happens. So when you're going to get it back to someone, they're already kind of on to the next. So this allows you to pull up everything you need to pull up right there on your phone. Mortgage records. You're also able to add a photo, add some notes. If this person's like, well, this is definitely in our top 5, but I'm not 100% sure. And the thing I like about this is this specific backyard setup or whatever it is. You can then take that photo. This is going to be in your system, so that when you call that person back, you're able to say, okay, so you really liked the backyard or this pool feature, whatever it was that you took the photo of. I found a similar house in that same area that has something like that. You can add a voice memo, and then you're also able to pull the reports just like you can from the website. So you can pull the report, you can decide the property report, seller report, mini property report, and then it's going to look like this. And you're going to have the option to either text it to them, it's going to email it, however you choose to give it to them. Or you can look at it right there on your phone together. Somebody asked, how updated is RPR from the MLS? Does it update the data every day? I will find out. I know it's at least every day. I think it's between every day and hourly. I think they're pulling data pretty quickly. So this is pretty up to date. It is NAR. So, they're pretty up to date, but I will reach out to my contact and find out. And when I send you the recording, I will include that answer. So next steps, this is what I was talking about earlier. If you text NAR RPR to this 555-888, it's going to send you a couple of reports that you can look through just to see what it looks like on your phone. But all you need to do is visit narrpr.com and then create new account. It's going to ask for your username and password, or you're going to create a password. But in order to do this, you do need to be a member of NAR, which I think most of you guys are. So go ahead and set that up. If you text this keyword new to that same 555888 number, it's going to give you some tips on getting started. And then also download that mobile app. It's hard because I can't really show you on my phone, but I was playing with this on my phone and it is really cool. You're able to just see a lot, especially when you're kind of sitting there with a person who's in your car waiting to see the next property. You're able to get a pretty good idea of what's going on around that neighborhood. Because sometimes you plan on one thing and then they completely change their mind, and you've got this at the touch of a button to just say, okay, well, I know we had talked about this neighborhood and then you guys mentioned a completely different neighborhood. So let me pull some information on this right this second, and then we'll be able to talk schools, we'll be able to talk home values, see what's out there, that kind of thing. So I know I gave you guys a ton of information. Again, I really recommend going on, getting started with RPR, and then just coming in here and kind of going through the different things. You've got a ton of stuff to look through. You can enter these keywords. This is how you can say, okay, so I'm looking for a distressed property. Maybe you are a specialist in distressed properties. You can go in and you can see what is distressed and maybe has not been put on the market yet. A lot of people sometimes they get into where it's either pre-foreclosure or it's in foreclosure and they don't know what to do, or it's distressed. You're able to look through those records and say, okay, so there's 40 distressed properties, but only 13 are on the market. I work with distressed properties, so I'm going to go in and call those 30 people and say, let's try to get the most money we can out of your house. So there's a ton of stuff you can do with these filters. I recommend just going in and depending on what your specialty is and what you guys are trying to do in real estate, just go through and see how this can help you. But you guys are already paying for this, so definitely take advantage of this. And if you have any questions on how to use this, there are a couple of spots here you can ask for help. This live chat's really helpful. Here's the phone number you can call if you need help. I'll include these as well. I'll include this phone number in case you guys need help getting started. Also, you can reach out to me. I have a contact at RPR that is willing to help us out. So if you guys have any questions that I was not able to answer, I can reach out to her. So besides the couple of questions that I've already answered or that I'm going to look into, like the how often does it update from MLS, are there any other questions I can help with? And somebody asked, are there specific reports you think are better for sellers to review? The seller's report is pretty good, but you guys know your clients. So look through the different reports. Maybe for some reason the property report on the specific property is better. There's all kinds of different ones that you can do. I would just look into it, knowing who you're working with, and decide what to do. Okay, great. Well, if you guys have any questions, like I said, give me a couple of hours to put this onto YouTube and I'll send you guys the recording. I'll send you the slide. I'm going to send you this report. This is just a seller's report, but I want you guys to look through it. You can kind of see this was just included everything. So we went through, I picked seller's report. All of these are checked. And then if you have specific properties you want to look at, I'll try to get in touch with you afterwards. And we'll see if we can figure out the problem because this is run by NAR. It's not a realty executive. So some of the data, if we need help with the data, I'm going to have to talk to NAR. Okay, great. Well, if you have other questions, let me know. Lisa, I am going to call you in just a second and we'll walk through this together and see if we can find it. Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, I'll send you this in a couple hours. And if you come up with questions that you have later, just give me a call. or send me an email back to just reply to the email that I send you guys. All right, thanks again.